All right, welcome back to Statement Games Live. This is episode 6. My name's Nathan, here with Mark. What's going on, Mark?
What's going on, Nathan? How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. For all of our listeners out there, make sure to subscribe to our channel, give the show a thumbs up, and leave a comment with how you like the show. Mark, why don't you go into why everyone should be listening? What do we offer in this show?
Yeah, sure. I'll kind of bring it back to I guess my childhood like a little bit here, and where my grandfather used to kind of tell, and I'm sure everybody's got the same kind of problem, right? Your grandparents, they tell the same story over and over again. So my grandfather here, I always have to hear about the same story about Joe DiMaggio hitting his 56 kind of game hitting streak here, and it was almost like clockwork every single week. So one day, as you kind of getting old, you start busting, your grandparents kind of chops a little bit here, and Pop, why are you telling the same story over and over again? He's like, well, until you start acknowledging that Joe DiMaggio was the greatest baseball player of all time, I'm going to tell you the same story and over again. So the reason why you should be listening to this show, it might sound a little repetitive, but I'm going to keep repeating it over and over again until the viewing audience finally kind of gets it. So you should be checking out statements for three kind of main reasons here. On a weekly basis, we're going to break down insights and happenings taking place within the gaming industry. We're going to share some stories, you and I, about what it actually means to be an entrepreneur and the entrepreneurship lifestyle. And we're also going to be talking about a few new forms of DFS in statement games. And although it's a new form of free-to-play DFS, it actually gives you the ability to win some cash prizes. So those are the three reasons as to why you should be tuned into us every single week here, not only locked into this show, but logging into StatementGames.com and playing our free-to-play new form of DFS.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about our week. Like, how's it going with you?
Do we have to?
Hey, I've got some good updates. I mean, we got to talk Lions and Giants a little bit.
Let's start kind of with the Lions. So obviously, we've made some picks here, but let's start with look, coach is gone.
Yeah.
So as a Lions fan, is this? I mean, obviously, it's not a surprise. It's not a shock. In favor of it, not in favor of it. Too early in the season. What are you looking at, and what can you expect from the Lions for the rest of the season?
So I think it was perfect. Not only did they get rid of the coach, they got rid of the GM, which pretty much set everything up. Was supposed to be perfect for Matt Patricia to come in and be a genius coach, usher in a new era of football and Lions fandom. Yeah, that era did not go so well. It was pretty bad. So I think it was done at the right time. They're going to get, I mean, the guy coming in as interim coach is Doug Bevel. Has not been good at play calling, so I'm sure the Lions are not going to be very good for the rest of the season, which means a high draft pick. So our next coach, GM, will have their pick of, I don't know, hopefully it's a top 5. But I mean, with the way the NFC East is, we might be lucky to get a top 8. Since well, I guess only 3 of them can get a top pick. If you get into the playoffs, you're stuck at 19 at the lowest.
So this interim coach, is there any realistic shot that this guy has an opportunity to win the job in the offseason? I guess it really kind of depends on how the remainder of the season plays out. But in your opinion, gun to the head right now, does this guy have a chance to retain the job heading into 2021 here, or are you expecting a new coach?
Nope. This is lame duck at its finest. This pretty much confirms that he's going to be fired at the end. He's just there to keep some consistency with the players and through the season. And pretty much his only job is to get out the new players, the younger players, see what we have on the team, and then wave goodbye at the end of the season. So
now, does this mean that you kind of you start looking for a new coach like now, or is that causing more of a disruption that it actually can be from a locker room kind of perspective, or to heck with it? You know what? The team's not going to be any good. We know what the rest of the season potentially kind of it looks like for all intents and purposes here. Do you start bringing in people? And if so, is there anybody at the top of your mind here that sticks out that you would consider?
So I would say that the Lions can't really start the process of looking for anyone until the playoffs are pretty much done. As far as like any coaches on playoff teams are locked in right now. Teams can't talk to them, can't do anything. I think that what this really does is gives the Lions a chance to really regroup, contemplate like their different options. Like, are they gonna try and get uh, an experienced coach, a offensive coach, grab someone from college? Like, they've got time to think, and that's kind of where it's at. Though we're gonna see probably a GM come in. That's another thing. Like, they have to decide on, do they get a coach before the GM? Because usually the GM will decide who becomes coach. So frankly, I think they're probably going to be looking at GM candidates. We'll hear about that before Super Bowl, and then after that, it'll be okay, who's the coach, and all of those things. So I am fine with the state of things completely. I think this is probably embolden a lot of Lions fans to kind of come back and have some sense of connection to the team. And I am looking forward now to what's coming in the draft. And as far as the players go, there were so many social media posts on Twitter and whatnot about just thankfulness from previous players, current players that were just like, oh my gosh, thank God he's gone.
It was that bad.
It was that bad. There have been reports for the last couple of years about how just strict and disrespectful he has been to other coaches, to players, to even the media in Detroit. I think he came in thinking he was Bill Belichick, and
Which
didn't have
works, if you're winning. But if if you're putting up subpar seasons here, it's going to be extremely tough in any media market to carry out that type of mantra.
Yeah, absolutely. But so how about the Giants? What's going on over there?
You know what? I look at it like this. At the very least, it gives you an opportunity to watch a freaking game. I mean, it's been a while, and where the Giants have played a meaningful game in the month of December, or even kind of like towards the tail end of November. So, am I expecting anything from the team? No. Do I enjoy the ability to actually watch a game on a Sunday and have it mean something here? Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So, team has improved. I think for the majority of the season here, they played a lot of teams kind of tough. I mean, they even played Pittsburgh pretty tough, going back to kind of week one. The only game in where they just completely got manhandled by basically kind of like a team of second stringers was the San Francisco 49ers when Garoppolo and all those other guys were kind of out. So team plays hard. I like the message that the coach and the coaching staff portrayed. I was a little nervous, being that I guess, a lot of buzz on the offensive line coach, Marc Colombo, being fired leading into the game against Cincinnati here. But I look at it like this. I mean, yeah, good coach, a lot of successful years, kind of in Dallas here. But I think the media and everybody blows out of proportion here, the effectiveness or the reins that an offensive line coach kind of has on the team. It's the head coach that can kind of control the reins. I like the way that kind of Jason Garrett is actually calling the game. He's working to the strengths of the team here. But this is Joe Judge's team here. So the way that the team is actually playing, all the credit has to actually go to him. He's got the team playing hard, and I'm looking forward to the game against Seattle. And I wouldn't actually be surprised if Daniel Jones snuck into the lineup. We'll see what happens. I heard some clamoring today that he wants to play, but I'm not sure if the team will hold him back. But we'll have to see what happens. I mean, if I had to put a guess on it right now here, I don't think he would play. But I don't think it's going to be because he doesn't want to play here. I think the team will hold him back.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I pulled up the standings for the NFC East, and the way this app has it, it's got the Giants in first, winning the division currently. What are your thoughts on the Giants going to the playoffs, possibly winning this division, with what could be a sub 500 record?
I don't care. I mean, if I'm going to get a home playoff game, I think from a team perspective, it's a huge kind of like learning curve for the
Hmm.
team. A young team that's on the up, on the come. They're up kind of like coming. So getting them that kind of like an experience in the playoffs here is a positive. Um, so yeah, I mean, do I think they're actually going to get in with a 5 win or a 6 win kind of like mark? I think one of these teams. I'm not really kind of like ruling out kind of like Dallas as of yet as well, or Philadelphia for that matter. Here,
Hmm.
if you can get to 7, I don't think 6 is going to cut it. I think if you can, if you get to 7, you got the division.
Gotcha. So what about looking into the draft? Like, so obviously, I mean, the Giants need some help. Um, do you think that it's going to hurt them to win the division? Like, I get it. As a fan, you want to see your team play as much as possible and getting into the playoffs, but winning this division, going up against a much better team and getting,
Mhm.
your behind handed to you, um, or losing it and getting a top 3 pick, like not getting into the first place there. What do you prefer?
I'm probably the most selfish sports fan on the face of the earth here. I want to win, so
Yeah.
I really don't look that far into the draft. When the draft comes, you kind of like worry about it and take a look at it then. There's no guarantee that the people that you're actually going to pick are going to pan out kind of anyway. I mean, take a look at the Jets a couple of years ago and where they kind of like traded up from the 6th to number 3 and picked Sam Darnold.
Mhm.
Now it looks like there's a realistic opportunity where he might actually be traded or flat out cut from the team depending on their ability to secure that number 1 spot and potentially take Trevor Lawrence, or even if they whatever luck rattle off a couple of
Mhm.
wins here. I still think that they'd be eyeing in on that Ohio State quarterback or some other quarterback if they have again another top 3 pick here. So I don't think there's any guarantees in the draft. I am a big proponent of winning every single game that you can here. I think
Mhm.
from a team perspective here, there's more value in building a culture around winning as opposed to completely tanking or finishing on a low note towards the end of the season with the hopes of a high kind of draft pick. I do
Mhm.
believe that winning, even if you are kind of winning late towards the end of any particular season, it will kind of carry over, and the team can kind of build upon it and grow from there.
Sure,
So I want to win.
absolutely. Yeah, nice. Well, speaking of winning, why don't we go through our picks from last week? Do you want to kind of go through that?
Yeah, sure. I guess in summary here, I sucked. You actually were perfect.
Mm.
So taking a look at the disastrous last Thursday Thanksgiving Day game between the Houston Texans and the Detroit Lions. Uh, my top 3 picks, I had Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller over 11.5 combined receptions. Fell 1 reception short. The two of them combined here had 11 total receptions. I believe I believe Fuller had 6 and Cooks had 5. You can kind of, I guess, fact
Mhm.
check me on that. I guess that's a big buzzword in the political media these days. So that was it here, and I did kind of have a good feel for the game here. I thought that towards the end of the game here, Houston would kind of get up and then kind of coast, which they actually did here. But I didn't feel comfortable with the 51.5 over under mark here, so I had the under
Mhm.
51.5 points. That was obviously incorrect. And I fell 1 field goal short because I had Prater over 1.5 field goals. He finished with 1 field goal for 29 yards. On the other
Yeah.
hand, when you take a look at your picks here, you hit the nail right on the head with Johnson having under a touchdown. He did
Yep.
have 11 carries for
Yeah.
46 yards, so he was kind of like a factor in the game. Um, Hey, you know what?
Y-
I guess that Peterson guy just doesn't stop, and when
True. Well,
he smells the end zone.
yeah.
So that
Yeah.
that was that. Let's see here from a Stafford kind of perspective here. You had the under 1.5 TDs, came close, but 28 complete 28 completions on 42 attempts for 295 yards, 1 TD, 1 INT, and was actually sacked 4 times, which leads into your third pick of the Texans over 2.5 sacks. So I was 0 for 3. You were 3 for 3. We'll make some new picks as we get towards the tail end of the show. I'm looking forward to a little bit of a revenge, but I got to be honest with you. In the past couple weeks here, my picks have just flat out they just haven't been good. So been doing some research. I do have a better feel for this upcoming game between the Broncos and the Chiefs for Sunday Night Football. We'll discuss it in a little bit.
No, I'm kind of excited at this result being 3 for 3. I did play that game. Like I put a full roster or full set of 10 out there, and I think I won that contest. Yeah, I did. I won the contest
Would you take my picks out?
No, I think those were the one. No, I had done that before.
You did a different
that was on my main account. Yeah.
All right.
So
must be nice to win. I wouldn't know what that feels like for a while.
And then I went back and I was looking and I was like, oh, I won the contest. Am I in the running for a jersey or something? And it was a qualifier of going, was it 10 for 10 in that contest?
Well, I mean, the good news, especially with this platform here, it was free to play, so it's not like I lost kind of like any money. But hey, especially on Thanksgiving, I mean, the origins of Statement Games kind of like originated on Thanksgiving Day here. Being able to compete as a competitor is something that I would have liked to done here. It just wasn't kind of like in the cards for me. So unfortunately, I did not win the traditional Saulino Thanksgiving Day Statement Games Detroit Lions game tournament.
Yeah, gotcha.
This year, my sister-in-law won, so she won the pot.
Wow, how big of a pot was that?
We played. It was 12 people. It was $5 a head.
Ooh,
winner take all.
That's nice. That's a solid pot. So, what else do you got for us this week on the docket?
Just general thoughts and things like that. I'm just kind of like curious. We might get into it a little bit when we kind of like make some picks here, but I mean, 13 yards. I'm looking at the Broncos quarterback who played against the Saints last week here. 1 completion for 13 yards. Did you catch any of that game? And do you have any thoughts besides from wanting to throw up if you happen to find yourself in front of a TV watching that game on a Sunday?
Yeah, no, I didn't see that game, but I had heard a few things about how the quarterback that played, I can't remember his name.
Kendall Hinton.
Yeah, that guy.
I could be butchering that name, but I mean, it was a practice squad wide receiver who
no one knew. Like few people knew who he was coming into game day. Like there were, his teammates that had never met him. So I knew going into that game that was going to just be a disaster, and it looks like it turned out to be.
Yeah, but I'm just kind of like I'm pulling it up kind of like right now. So there was, I mean, 1 completion, 9 attempts, 13 yards. Average, his 1 completion was for 1.4 yards and 2 INTs. So I don't. Yeah, I can't think. I think I've seen some Pee Wee Pop Warner football games that may have been a little more exciting than what we saw from the Saints and the Broncos. But I mean, as a team, Denver rushed the ball 33 times between Freeman, Gordon, Lindsey. I mean, the quarterback actually had 2 carries for 7 yards himself, and 100 yards rushing total and 13 yards passing. So I guess a total of 113 yards is not going to really cut it in terms of putting up a W in any type of professional football game.
Yeah, there were a lot of people that the league didn't postpone that game because of the fact that they've done it for like the Ravens. I'm trying to think what else. Didn't they do it for San Francisco? There's been a couple teams where they've had, illnesses come up, COVID come up, and they move the game. And this one, they didn't. They just had them play, even though they had no quarterbacks.
I don't make the rules.
True.
There's only certain things that I can actually do. I guess there was a complaint here, but then again here, I mean, was the one kind of I forget the guy who kind of was the one guy who came down with COVID and transmitted it here. I guess there was a lack of protocol and where it could have been prevented.
Yeah.
So maybe it was kind of viewed as punishment, and where, hey, look, if you're going to act like a bunch of jackasses and not follow the proper protocols that we're trying to instill and put forward here, guess what? You basically just cost your team kind of a game.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a strange year. There's a lot of strange things having to happen because of COVID and all of this in the sports world. So you got to just kind of chalk it up to that. And I think 2020 might have an asterisk on it.
I wouldn't doubt that for a second here. And I guess the last thing that I have before we kind of move on here, did you have any interest in the Mike Tyson fight this past Saturday?
I'd heard about it, and I knew that Tyson was
so you
training.
Didn't get the fight?
No, I didn't get the fight. It was a tie, if I remember.
It was a tie. For all intents and purposes, it was labeled as an exhibition.
Yeah.
I did not. I mean, I would have had an interest in watching the fight here. I'm personally not going to shell out the $50 to pay for the stream.
Sure.
From what I can actually see from the highlights that I actually kind of watched, looks like Tyson did kind of get the better of him and was kind of the fresher fighter. But I don't know. I was just wanted to throw it out and kind of see what you kind of get a thought on it here. But I don't have an interest in older, over the hill fighters getting back in the ring and duking it out.
I feel like that's dangerous. Like boxing, with what we know about CTE from football, and then what we know of old boxers, like it's interesting to me to think that the boxing league is okay with doing this. But it's also, I think that if it wasn't a pay-per-view fight, and I had known about it, I would have tuned in. I would have.
Yeah, definitely would tune in.
Mike Tyson's a character, and I would like to have seen what's he got, what's he still able to put together.
The rules were different. It was set up in a very weird way. So, for example, if any fighter at any point got cut, the fight would actually stop. If there was any type of knockdown, same thing. The fight would kind of stop there. So it was only for a handful of rounds. It wasn't your traditional 12-round, 3 knockdown kind of rule, championship, fight here. So the whole setup was, again, it was a little bit of more of a show than it was kind of a sporting event, in my opinion. So that was kind of the primary reason as to why I wasn't kind of locked in. And now I know that there's some celebrity YouTubers out there. I believe his name is Logan Paul. Not familiar with him. Seems like a pretty good guy, but not that familiar with his content. He wound up fighting on the undercard Nate Robinson, who was a point guard in the NBA, played for the Knicks, played for the Celtics, and he wound up knocking out Nate Robinson. It's almost like the same thing here. And now he's kind of out. I believe he's trying to challenge Conor McGregor to a boxing fight and things like that, but it's almost like the same thing here. I don't have an interest in athletes looking to take on a secondary sport for the first time and making a little bit of a spectacle about it. I was a pretty big kind of Nate Robinson, or was an admirer of a Nate Robinson fan because of his size, and he was great, and plus I'm a Knicks fan, but so I always liked him from a Knicks kind of perspective, and I admired his play on in the basketball court. I have no interest in watching Nate Robinson strap on a pair of boxing gloves and get into a ring here. I'll pay and watch fighters fight. I'll pay and watch basketball players to play basketball. Same thing with football and things like that. But
I mean, it's
stay
different.
in your lane is the way I'm looking at it.
I feel like if it was like a true dual sport athlete, like I mean, well, the number one is thought is Bo Jackson, being able to transcend and do well in two different sports. I feel like this spectacle of like boxing with it's kind of the glove, not it's like toned down, really pulled back from what you're describing to me. And if I really want to watch boxing, I want him within rules going as, let's really test these guys and see how far they can take it. What can they handle? And, if a scratch or falling down pretty much ends the contest, what are you really doing?
I agree. We'll have to kind of see what happens. I think there's a rumor floating around there that the ex-Chicago Blackhawks player Evander Kane now is looking to jump into the boxing ring and challenging Logan Paul. So we might kind of have one of these quasi celebrity ex-athlete fights in the future. We'll see what happens, but
they just
not
call
necessarily something that I'm paying for.
Live action celebrity deathmatch. Do you remember that from what was that, Comedy Central back in the early 2000s, late 90s? The animated claymation.
Yeah. Where you would have, I remember. They would have like a claymation of like Tyson taking on Rocky Balboa or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, they were kind
of course
like,
that was a little more graphic than what we would ever see in these.
I'll tell you what, though, I'm not sure if you remember this show. Remember that show kind of like, I believe it was on MTV, or maybe it was I don't know, one of these kind of like shows. Remember that show Bully Beatdown? And where the host, who was like an ex or actually was a current mixed martial artist, and he would kind of like bring in other mixed martial artists and things like that, and he'd kind of like search various different towns and kind of like areas for stories of bullies picking on kind of like weaker kids, and then he would basically kind of like give them, I don't know, let's just call it like $1,000 or something like that if they can last with with an MMA fighter, and they would like that was a quality entertaining kind of like show. So that stuff I kind of like watching, but then again, that's not necessarily pay-per-view. It's regular kind of like cable TV.
Right, absolutely. But all right, let's get into the news for the week. And Mark, you've got a feature that you want to discuss.
Yeah, so we just kind of like started it. I mean, basically, at the very least two. So at the very least, we have two tournaments that our community can play for that gives you the ability to win something a little bit more than just Statement Games coins, such as $200 cash or an NFL jersey of your choice. But usually what we do with like those tournaments here is we actually set them so that certain conditions need to be met in order for you to win that prize. For example, with the tournament that we do with the IDP guys for the Sunday Night Football game every week here, we put all of the contest winners' names into a hat, and you have to be listening to the IDP guys show to find out if you kind of had your name kind of drawn or anything like that here. For the Monday night kind of contest that we actually have, we do it with another great partner of ours called NFL 32, which is simply at NFL 32 and 2 underscores, kind of on Twitter. And basically, our community kind of plays for an NFL jersey of their choice if they happen to be the overall tournament winner. But we have like a certain condition. Like, for example, in order for this grand prize to qualify, maybe like the game total has to go over or under 51.5 points. So basically, if it hits the condition, somebody gets the prize. If it doesn't hit the condition here, we just start it up next week here. So we're basically doing like all the way with all that stuff here. But we are introducing almost like what we call a VIP membership. The VIP membership it's an annual subscription. So for the year, it basically is going to cost you $24.99. It's less than a couple of bucks a month here. But basically what that means is that all of the conditions are being kind of like, removed. So if you're a member of Statement Games and you're playing in these special kind of like, tournaments that give you the ability to compete for something that's a little bit more than coins, if you win the tournament, the prize is yours. But in order to claim that prize, you have to be a VIP member. And as we get deeper into 2021, we're going to be adding some additional features to the VIP membership kind of like package. So
nice.
We'll talk about that as those features kind of going to get rolled out. But
sure.
Hopefully people don't mind, and they're interested in kind of like supporting Statement Games and our services moving forward. And the one way that you can actually do it, in addition to liking this channel, giving us some comments, letting us know what you like and what you don't like here. Of course, a little financial contribution here, in which you're getting some great value in return from it in the form of $24.99 here is something that our community will embrace. And so far, the early uptake has been pretty positive.
Nice. That's awesome. So what do the listeners have to do to take part in that?
So basically, they have to kind of like, contact us in order to become a VIP member. We send you kind of like a PayPal, we send you a PayPal invoice so that there's a receipt and everything's kind of like, documented. And basically, the way that you participate in it for now, as we automate it within the platform moving forward. But for now, you just send a simple email to marketing@statementgames.com inquiring about the VIP membership service. We'll get you set up straight away. Or on any social media platform @StatementGames, where you can find us: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Just drop us a note on social media or comment, at us here, and we'll get you set up.
Nice. That's awesome. Looking forward to seeing that that develop. That sounds really cool. Let's talk about the next segment here, Nuggets of Truth. Why don't you go into that, Marc? Let's hear it.
All right. I don't want the show to turn into sour grapes, but then again, this is kind of like my therapy for the week here. So I don't want to come across as having an axe to grind every single week here, but guess what? I need to vent. It's our show. Until you tell me to cool it a little bit here, I'm going to kind of continue with these little segments here, and I think they're kind of good learning tools for other people who are checking out the show here, so that they can actually see firsthand what we're doing from a business development or from a marketing perspective, what seems to kind of be working here, what are some of the challenges that we actually continue come upon as we continue kind of down this path. So we have great partners. A great example is the IDP guys that you're kind of show here. You talk about Statement Games on your weekly podcast. We have, and then in return for that, here we're featuring the IDP guys as the primary sponsor of the Sunday night football game, kind of the week on Statement Games here. We associate prizes to that tournament. We've done little other things like trading backlinks, and where there's a banner advertisement of IDP guys placed on Statement Games, and vice versa. So all those little kind of things helps introduce my product to your community, and vice versa. And as like a startup here, we need to be as aggressive as we possibly can in setting up these little joint partnerships. And some of them, like we're dealing with the IDP guys, are great. And then at other particular times, you just come across fucking assholes or jerks, if you don't mind me kind of saying. So we touched upon this like a little bit like last week here, and maybe you can kind of pull it up here. One of the other things that we do from a marketing perspective, and we utilize this as a bargaining chip for kind of Statement Games, is where, hey, look, if your blog or your podcast, if you give me the ability to come onto your podcast and tell the Statement Game story, or if you put out a little bit of a blog article and where you kind of talk about Statement Games in one of your upcoming articles, I will give you some real estate space in the Statement Games, like in a newsletter. And every single time that we put out a newsletter, which takes place anytime between 2 or 3 times a week, we try and promote a podcast or a blog of the day. And in this particular case here, you can see that it was Dynasty Island. Great guys. Enjoyed kind of being a guest kind of on their show. And of course, as we mentioned last week here, this newsletter reaches about 15,000 people that have become part of the Statement Games community. So it's a nice little barter system. Am I going too fast? Is that kind of going to make sense so far?
Yeah, no, you got it.
All right. So, as part of like that whole kind of process here, I usually come across and interact with these guys primarily first on social media. In the course of that interaction here, I follow them, they follow kind of like me, so on and so forth here. It's not like our social media accounts are going like gangbusters here, but working really hard here, and there's definitely growth with our social media accounts, primarily kind of like Twitter. That's taking place on a weekly basis here. And just in case you're interested in following us on Twitter, it's at StatementGames, as I had mentioned before. And one day within the last, I'm just going to say within the last 2 weeks, right? We had an interaction. We put out kind of like in a newsletter, right? And we did our thing. We gave the guy kind of like another little write-up like on the bottom. The day that the newsletter kind of like came out, I wound up pinging the guy or notifying the guy on social media saying, hey, look, you know what? The newsletter's going out. Keep an eye out for it. Enjoyed working with you. If there's anything else that I can do for you, kind of like let me know. Same kind of like spiel. It's great, great working with you. Enjoyed the stuff. Good luck with the platform. Good luck with the product. I enjoy kind of playing some like more games and things like that here. So the newsletter went out, and then I went to kind of like notify the guy again. Hey, look, just so that it's out. But when I went to notify him again, I noticed that they had unfollowed us on all the social media platforms.
Weird.
So I was like, this little shit. So I guess my question to you is, should I be pissed off? Should I reach out to the guy? Or, hey, you know what? This is just kind of like, the world of the game that we actually play in, and let's let bygones be bygones and move on to a different account. And I don't know. Part of me wants to kind of like, reach out and say, hey, look, hey, Turkey, what the fuck is kind of like, the problem here? Did we do something wrong, or is there anything there, or the heck with it? Let's just move on to other opportunities. So my question is, do I reach out? And two, is this something that would bother you or something that you would be pissed off with? Just want to get your thoughts and your take.
Yeah, I think that I would definitely be feeling some type of way. That is a very strange, especially when it's like that close to you had just finished up your deal.
Just went out, yeah.
Yeah, just went out.
Complete transaction was completed.
So there's a definite like tie in from like, so in my mind, I'd be thinking, well, did something go wrong? Was it not what you wanted? And I would definitely have reached out and been like, hey man, I see you unfollowed us. Is there a problem? And while I don't think it's a requirement for everyone to follow everyone, I do think that I tend to follow people that I think add value to my Twitter feed. And I mean, Statement Games is granted, I've kind of moved and done a lot more with our relationship since the first deal that we ever made. But I've always found value in following you guys, seeing what's going on. But also there's a respect thing of like, hey, we've done business together. Like this is something that I'm, I want to remain connected with you. So I don't know. That's a weird thing to do.
It's weird, right?
Yeah, I would definitely reach out to them and say like, hey, everything cool? All
right. Well, if you're listening to the show here, maybe you can kind of drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Tell the guy to go pissed off, try and communicate and see what the issue is, if there was kind of like an issue, or I guess option C, just chalk it up and move on and look for new opportunities. Basically, what would you do?
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what our listeners have to say. But did you have some positives from this week?
Well, the positives is that basically there are some great people that we're working with, such as like the IDP guys. There's another kind of like an organization out there called IBT Media that have been kind of like doing a great job with us here. I'll probably put some more information about them on the social media accounts, and we'll go from there. There's some great people that we kind of like bringing on board as content contributors. A site called Florida Teams, and there's another individual that I refer to as the Philadelphia Kid and Jock Morgan that's now kind of like contributing from a content creation perspective and doing some writing from us here. But there's some great kind of people out there. I will have more on that as we come here. I definitely want to make this segment sound like it was 100% sour grapes here. There's a lot of great things that we're progressing with on the partnership side of things here, and where I help you, you help me, and it seems like it's mutually beneficial for all parties.
Nice. All right. Well, with that, let's get to the part of the show where we. All right, so this episode of Making Picks is brought to you by the IDP guys. It's your #1 source for non-standard fantasy football. Play the contest and visit idpguys.org and step up your fantasy game. Marc, do you want to go into the game this week and what the contest details are?
Yeah, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Denver Broncos versus the Kansas City Chiefs Sunday Night Football game of the week, sponsored by IDP guys on the StatementGames platform. You can access StatementGames via the website, www.statementgames.com, but then there's also apps that complement the website as well. So you can find this in the Google Play or Apple App Store. StatementGames Fantasy Sports. Basically, you're making 10 picks on that specific game, ranking them from 10 through 1, and you're having a little bit of fun with an alternative form of fantasy sports.
Nice.
And for this game, if you are, everybody can play this game for free. You don't need to kind of be a VIP member. It's going to cost you 5 coins to get in. For people who are checking out StatementGames for the first time, keep in mind I'm giving you 60 coins just for checking this out. And basically, you'll win coins by finishing in the first, second, and third. You can exchange your coins at any point for a cash gift card of your choice. But if you are a VIP member and you happen to be the overall tournament winner of the IDP guys Denver Broncos versus Kansas City Chiefs game, we are going to send you a NFL jersey of your choice, any NFL jersey that you want, or the equivalent of 7,500 StatementGames coins, which are redeemable for an NFL jersey. But keep in mind that there's close to 85 different merchants within our reward shop. So it's holiday season. Maybe you want to kind of utilize those coins for Amazon gift cards, or maybe you need to fuel up on some Starbucks as you're doing your holiday shopping here. You basically can pick and choose whatever the heck you want.
Nice. Yeah, for sure. So let's get into so we're gonna pick 3 each, and then that's pretty much where we're leaving it, right? We're not gonna do those 4 and just kind of give everyone a little taste of what we're thinking.
Yep. We'll go ahead, and you just joined like a regular lobby tournament, right? You didn't create a private contest?
I joined the IDP guys one.
Oh, gotcha. So, basically, and your username, is this your main account or are you using some other?
It's my main account, yeah.
Okay. And what's your StatementGames username?
I think it's Nathan Ryder.
Okay. So if you come across Nathan Ryder, just in I believe, what is this? Is this maybe like contest 2 or 3 or something like that? Just know that if you come across Nathan Ryder, you're actually, all right, well, I guess the game went up pretty recently. So
yeah.
If you're playing in contest 1 and you come across Nathan Ryder, just understand that you're actually playing against Team Nate and Team Marc.
Yep.
So let's see here. Obviously we kind of reviewed how pathetic the quarterback play for the Broncos was last week. It looks like Locke is actually coming back for the Broncos. So regardless of what actually happens here, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the Broncos passed for a little bit more than 13 yards in the Chiefs game. But from a competitive perspective here, I'm going to be very bold and I'm going to be very confident with these picks here. I just don't see this one kind of going to be in close. I think the Chiefs kind of blow them out. It goes against a theme that I like to play, and where when you have 2 teams playing in the same division here, I got a feeling that the teams know each other pretty well here. So bigger point spreads here and things like that here is something that I like to kind of take the points as opposed to allowing the points here. But taking a look at what's actually coming back or going on within the Broncos, quarterbacks kind of off the field like last year. Maybe a little Russ coming back and play the second time here. I'm not a big kind of Lock fan. I'm looking at that October 25th matchup here where the Chiefs did wind up blowing them out 43-16. I'm expecting like more of the same here. So I like the Chiefs to put up points. I like them to put up a lot of points here, and I like them to basically blow the Broncos out at home.
Yeah.
I believe there's a lot on the line for the. I got to check here, and maybe you can fact check me again here. I believe the Chiefs win here, they lock up the AFC West title for the 6th consecutive year, or is it 5th?
Yeah, that's looking at conferences here. Ooh, I don't know if they lock it up.
All
They're
right. So a week
Steelers.
ago,
Steelers are perfect still.
on Sunday, and the Chiefs look to clinch at least a share of their 5th consecutive AFC West title.
Yeah.
So they would lock up a share, or they'd be guaranteed a share of the AFC West title. So it's not like they're not playing for anything here. So
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm expecting, like the Steelers, the Chiefs to not waste any time, get this W here, maybe kind of like, secure the division this year, and then at least kind of have the option of potentially resting some players as we get closer towards the end of the season here. But it looks like they're going to have to keep winning here if they want to keep up for. I mean, will there be such a thing as home field advantage in the playoffs when the playoffs start? Is there going to be more of the same? Enough, but
yeah, it's I mean, with COVID and there not being fans in the stands, that's the thing. We just saw San Francisco essentially lose their stadium. So who knows what's coming with the playoffs? That's still a few
Kansas
weeks away.
City has, what do they have? I think they have at least 25-30% of fans in the building.
Mm-hmm.
With cities like Tampa Bay, Kansas City. I'm trying to think, not that it matters, but Dallas and things like that. Do you think any of these cities expand the stadium capacity as we get into 2021, or is this year a complete a wash? And until this vaccine comes out here, we're looking at more of the same.
I feel like if anything changes, it's going to be going backwards. With the way the peaks are coming with the COVID, people getting sick and everything, that's increasing. So I've heard far more talk of more restrictions for this winter than less. But I think we are good to go for 2021 as far as the next season. With the vaccine coming out, we might have a normal year next year.
All right. I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but it's definitely going to be weird if you're going to be watching, the championship games and the Super Bowl without anybody in these stadiums. But it looks like that's a fairly distinct and realistic possibility.
I think there was a solid chance of the season getting canceled early on, and the fact we've made it to here is
count your blessings and go from there. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah,
I'm
100% on board with you with this Broncos game. I think this is going to be a sad game for the Broncos. Chiefs are going to look. I mean, did you see the Tyreek scores last week? Like, Mahomes and Hill they're on point right now. They're getting their stride. They're getting ready to hit the playoffs head on. So I think the Broncos are going to be swept away in this game. But with that, why don't you give me your 3 picks?
All right. So first one, just go ahead and lock it in here. Tight end position here. I'm going to take Travis Kelce over 6.5 receptions.
Oh yeah, that's locked in. That's definitely happening. Kelce and Mahomes have they have great chemistry, and I believe there was the last game. I think Kelce had like over 80 yards against the Broncos, so I think this is a sure thing.
Okay. All right, I'm back up again here.
Yeah.
Let's go to the game category, And I'm going to lock in on the Chiefs point total. So give me the Kansas City Chiefs over 32.5 points. They move the ball well. They put up a lot of points on Denver back on the 25th of October. I never can ask a team that they haven't done before here. I think Kansas City is in stride, good form here. It's a lot of points, but I'm going to lay it over 32.5.
Gotcha. And what's your last one?
I'm just going to take the point total. I'm going to lay the 14.5 points. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs plus minus 14.5.
You're okay. So you're taking the over on will win 14.5 points.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. This one. All right. So on this one for me, I'm going with. So as far as Mahomes goes, he's definitely a double threat quarterback. He does run. He will run it into the end zone. The team has multiple ways of scoring, and I think one of the things they won't have to rely on is touchdowns passed by Mahomes. And so I'm going to actually take the under 2.5 touchdown passes because I think while Mahomes can have multiple touchdowns this game, I think it's going to be a mixture of passing scores and rushing scores from him. And then you've probably got defensive touchdowns. You've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire going in for touchdowns. So I think Patrick Mahomes putting up 3 passing scores in this game, I don't think he's going to be called on it. So I don't think he's going to do it. As far as just got to have a defensive pick, because being from the IDP guys, I definitely think that the Kansas City Chiefs will have over 1.5 turnovers. And I think at least one of those are going to go in for a score. So I'm definitely taking KCD over 1.5 turnovers. And then finally, I saw how low Clyde Edwards-Helaire's rushing yards are on here, and I think that he's going to be a big part of, especially if Kansas City gets up early. While I don't think they ever take their foot off the gas, I also do believe that Clyde Edwards-Helaire can drive that train, and I'm going over 6.5 rushing yards for CEH. But yeah, so there we go. That's what we got this week for our picks. What do you think?
All right. I think.
How do we come out with this? Do you think who gets the most wins out of between the two of us when we review this next week?
What in terms of my 3 picks versus your 3 picks?
Yeah.
I'm going to be extremely disappointed if I don't go 3-0. So I'm gonna take mine. I think it really just defies football logic to think that the Chiefs will not move the ball and put up points here, and they better, because I'm freaking putting my top 3 picks, and broadcasting it out to the listening world. And if I make myself look like a jackass again for a second week in a row, well, I guess actually I've probably made myself look like a jackass multiple weeks in a row at some point here, but God damn it, it's not going to be this week. All right, so let's go Chiefs Kingdom. Let's get the ball. Let's move the ball. Let's put up some points here. Broncos, tough shit. Let's go.
Alrighty. Well, with that, we're closing out episode 6 of Statement Games Live. Make sure to follow at Statement Games on all social media. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, and definitely play StatementGames.com.
All right, man. I'll catch you next week.
Yep. See you, bud.